Now, this outline does seem a little harder than usual. I'm still going to do what I always do, which is go to the question and look at the goal, an overview of the study's findings, the key word there being the findings, right? I don't care what their methodology was. I don't care what their hypothesis was. There's all sorts of phases of an experiment that they could ask about, but they're specifically saying the results. What did they find? So let's take a look, see what we can get. The 2021 study determined the information rate of 17 languages in bits of information conveyed per second. To me, I already sense that this is wrong. I might keep it in just in case nothing is better than this, because this technically is kind of a finding. It says the word determined, but it doesn't have any actual information, right? What was the information rate of these 17 languages? That feels like what the finding would be. So I don't love this. For the sake of just like moving on with my explanation, I'm going to cross it out. It's not the answer, but in the real test, maybe I keep it around because I'm like, I could stretch it and make it the finding. Let's look at B. Researchers found that information was conveyed more quickly in Spanish at 7.7 syllables per second than in Vietnamese at 5.3 syllables per second. Okay, well, that sounds like a finding, right? It's some numbers, so that's good. So I would keep that for sure. Let's look at C. Vietnamese had the 16th fastest syllable rate, lower than that of Spanish, which had the second fastest. However, Spanish had the lower information rate of the two. That also seems like a finding, right? That's like data. So, okay, fine. And then D, though some of the languages differed in number of syllables spoken per second, all 17 conveyed information at roughly the same rate. Well, now this is kind of avoiding numbers, but it's still conveying data, right? Same rate. They differed in this thing spoken per second. Now, some of you, especially if you're worried about time, could probably just pick D and be done and just be like, all right, what was I really asked to do? There's kind of two goals here. Goal number one is talk about the findings. Goal number two is overview of the findings, right? A big summary. These two choices here are getting a little too specific about things. And so you might just be able to say, I'm going to place a bet on D here because that sounds more like an overview. There's 17 languages, right? So in B and C, why are we only mentioning two of them? That doesn't seem like an overview. Unless the study was specifically about Spanish and Vietnamese, that seems like an example of one of the findings, but the overview should kind of be more inclusive and maybe talk about in some way all 17 languages. So you might pick D, you'd be right here, but it doesn't take that much longer to kind of go back and just be like, what are we doing here? Right? They wanted to determine the rate at which 17 syllables conveyed both information and syllables. They calculated the bits of information. The IR was found to be approximately consistent across the 17 languages. Notice that's a finding, but it's an overview. They calculated the number of syllables spoken per second. Spanish had the second fastest, and Vietnamese had the 16th fastest. So again, this is specific data, but I feel like if I'm looking for an overview, it's kind of this one. That is kind of where we are here. Though some of the languages differ in the number of syllables spoken per second, right? Spanish and Vietnamese are different in that respect. All 17 conveyed information at roughly the same rate. So, that to me, it's a little bit to get an overview, and it's maybe to double check that finding is accurate, because we do know that occasionally when multiple answer choices work for these outline questions, some of them just have incorrect information, and we do need to check the bullet points to make sure. But these are all kind of different pieces of information. It's not like they conflict in a way that would make me think one is wrong. So I don't know. It doesn't take much longer to play it safe. But at the same time, if you really understand the purpose of these outline questions, I think you probably could have picked D pretty confidently here and moved on.